we're actually just picking a random point between two predetermined points, and we haven't even discussed whether a carbon price is a good idea or a bad idea. It's just kind of making politics a team tribal game. What the bloody hell is this concept of centrism? And in your book that you've been talking about, I'm getting the impression that this centrism sucks. So break it down for us.
Yeah. Look, I guess what I'm writing about in my latest book is the idea that you can neatly describe politics as having a left and a right and a centre, and that pretty much every issue can be kind of put on a simple spectrum between what the left wing think and what the right wing think. And then, of course, you get all these kind of worthy people saying, well, I'm smarter than you all. I'm right here in the centre. You know, I like to cherry pick. I like the best of all worlds. You know, everyone else is an ideologue. I'm the pragmatist. Everyone else is extreme. I'm the sensible one. So, yeah, having kind of listened to this shit for decades, I thought, it's probably time to actually do my job of articulating both what that might mean and why that's a problem. Because I think democracy is about debate. I think democracy is about disagreement. I don't think there's anything wrong in a democracy with people disagreeing with each other, but we've learned how to skip a step. And rather than actually debate whether an idea is good or bad, rather than discuss whether an idea is popular or unpopular, we just jump over all that and go, that's a left-wing thing and the right think this and I'm in the centre, so ta-da, fixed it. And, so I don't think that works.
So that's the shorthand then. So it sounds like you're describing the political conversation that punters have is dominated by a current group think where people will assign ideas to certain categories and then instantly dismiss them based on the category. So if I'm trying to appeal to my crowd, I might be like, that's a far right-wing idea. Or the other side might go, that's a far left-wing idea. And then they get to dismiss it and we all get to go, well, we know either end sucks, so it must be somewhere in the middle. That's kind of what you're talking about. And you're saying this is not a good or helpful political conversation.
Absolutely. I think it's unhelpful in so many ways. That's why I wrote the book about it. So the first way it's problematic, the first way is to think that it's kind of meaningful and consistent to think of everything as, is that a left-wing thing or a right-wing thing? So in Australia today in 2025, we talk as if tackling climate change is a left-wing thing and not worrying about climate change is a right-wing thing. Well, I hate to break it to some of your listeners, but, in America, or say let's start with Germany, the right-wing party in Germany has been the leader on climate for decades. Angela Merkel, the president of Germany or the chancellor of Germany, was the leading climate figure in Europe for 10 years. And she was from the right. Margaret Thatcher was worried about climate change. Ronald Reagan was worried about climate change a long time ago. So the first problem with this left-right centre map is that it assumes that particular concerns are concerns of the left or concerns of the right. It just doesn't make any sense. And more importantly, it's not stable over time. And if it was okay for right-wingers to worry about climate change 30 years ago, how come they're not okay with it now? So that's the first problem. The second problem is not what are the issues we should worry about, but what are the policies that could fix it. Go back to 2007 in Australia, a long time ago, seems like, not for me. In 2007, John Howard, the most successful Liberal leader since, in modern times, John Howard supported a carbon price. Kevin Rudd supported a carbon price in 2007. So less than 20 years ago, putting a price on carbon wasn't left, it wasn't right, it was common sense. But now it's heresy. Now it's extreme. So firstly, the whole idea of what's left and what's right doesn't make a lot of sense. But what I argue in the essay is what makes even less sense than that is saying, well, anything in the middle of the left and right, that's where I want to be. Because if you don't really take the left and the right as sort of as the obvious categories for everything, why invent a new category called neither of them?
So it sounds like it just reduces this political conversation. We're not talking about ideas anymore. We just have political tribes, political camps that are either this side or that side, and we're just trying to find and locate the middle. And if we find what's the middle between those 2 points, we're thinking that's a smart, easy shortcut to knowing what's true.
Yeah.
But we're actually just picking a random point between 2 predetermined points, and we haven't even discussed whether a carbon price is a good idea or a bad idea, or this topic is good for who or someone else. It's just kind of making politics a team tribal game.
Yeah, spot on. So give you an example. Once upon a time in Australia, we did whaling. Okay, in my lifetime, we were doing whaling in Australia. And when we decided to end whaling, it was controversial. Some people wanted to keep killing the whales. The people who killed the whales for a living really wanted to keep killing the whales for a living. But when we decided to end whaling, we didn't kind of come up with some centrist whale phase-out scheme. We didn't come up with a whale offset scheme. We didn't try to split the difference between the people that wanted to end whaling and the people that wanted to keep whaling. Like, we just kind of thought about it and went, what are we going to do here? I think this is the right thing to do. Same with asbestos mining. You know, we didn't split the difference and ask the asbestos industry, well, what percentage of building products do you think it's okay to make from asbestos? Right? So we didn't adopt a centrist position where everyone was a bit sad. There were people that wanted to get asbestos out of our houses. There were people that wanted to keep selling asbestos for us to build our houses from. And we made a decision. And that's what democracy ultimately is delegating to our elected representatives some hard decisions to make. But in modern, I'd say the last 10 years in Australia, everyone's always looking for a way to not make a hard decision, to just find the way where the fossil fuel industry and the climate, people that want climate action are happy. Or, we're just always searching for a compromise, which, to be clear, sometimes compromise is fine, but we never asked the beer industry what blood alcohol level they'd be okay with.